My name is Lo Silva, and I have Travis Ketchum here with me. He is the founder of Contest Domination. Contest Domination is a web software as a service that you can use to create awesome contests online. Travis, what's up, man?
Hey man, good to be here. It's actually sunny in Seattle today, so
Nice. Nice. You're based out of Seattle?
yeah, the beautiful Northwest.
Nice. Yeah, I'm in Orlando. It's ridiculously hot in here already. So it's tough weather over here. But yeah, man. So kind of wanted to, like we talked a little bit earlier, kind of just go a little bit more conversational with it and stuff like that. And why don't you tell everybody a little bit of how you got started and how you created Contest Domination? Because I think that's a pretty cool story.
Sure. So I mean, just as some background, I went through the entrepreneurial phase as a kid, just like everyone else. Went to college, got a little distracted, as will happen. After college, got a real job. Decided very, very quickly that the cubicle life and the kind of metrics that weren't necessarily performance oriented just weren't for me. I had a big drive of, if the numbers say we're doing well, then we're doing well. If they say we're not doing well, then we're not. So that only lasted about 9 months. And then I went out on my own to help out some best-selling authors and speakers and run their JV programs and affiliate programs and help them do some media buying, like a bunch of spend on LinkedIn ads and that kind of thing. But I knew that to really be successful, I needed to A, have my own product, and B, I didn't have a list of my own. And so it was sort of like the shoemaker's kids have no shoes. And so I needed to find a way to quickly sort of grab that initial audience. And I looked around the web and I saw that contests were a great way to sort of suck the air out of a market and get attention into your space. And had really high conversion rates, had great viral lift on the back end. But the key missing component there was that at the time, several years ago, my impression was that most of the contest platforms out there existed for the sole purpose of just being a contest, not for the sole purpose of being a contest for lead generation specifically. And so there's a few things that you can do differently on the back end mechanics of that to make it really oriented. And so I scrimped and scrounged and begged and bartered and worked with some different WordPress developers, some good, some bad, to scrape together my first product. Spent about $7,500, after a few failures, and for the product, the sales copy, that kind of thing. Over half of which was on a credit card. So we're talking like really, really scrimping by. Ran a contest myself. Did actually surprisingly well, better than I even thought I could. I was like, wow, great. There's some legs to this. We have some metrics. We have a story we can tell. Turned around, launched that as a WordPress product. Did well over six figures over a course of a few months on that product, and then immediately turning that into a SaaS product by starting over. But we knew we had some momentum, some branding, and that really put us in a position to build a more long-term sustainable business. And now we do in revenue every few days what my original startup cost was. So it's really come a long way.
Not bad, not bad. Yeah, it's cool to hear your story because we come a little bit from the internet marketing world, and we hear of people that make awesome things, and they do make a quick six figures in a product launch and things like that, which in most cases, if you take that to like the SaaS world, that's not normal. Hey, yeah, we figured this thing out and we set up a landing page, and they're like, oh, we got 5,000 people for free, and we're like, yeah, we made 100 grand. So it's so different, but the mentality also shifts where a person more in the startup space is always, yeah, we're scaling this, we're making it big, and a person more in the internet marketing world is saying, hey, yeah, I already made my money, I'm out, I'm building something new. It's cool that you actually stuck to it and built a legitimate business through it.
Yeah, I mean, what we decided to do is in effect, we actually did build something new, but we decided that instead of doing the hit and run, and sort of abandoning products, every product we've ever sold, we always support for at least a year.
Yeah.
That's our guarantee to our customers, regardless of how well or not well the product is done. Obviously, in our new current product, since it's a subscription, we can support them sort of forever.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's the idea. But what we want to do is just sort of take that momentum, take that user feedback, take the brand, and then go back to square one and say, okay, now that we know there's traction, right? It was more of a marketing test, right? Like you said, in most startup world, to be 5,000 free leads, we're only satisfied if we can do a promo and get 5,000 customers,
Yeah.
which is a drastically different metric to work from. So yeah, it's definitely been our trajectory the whole time to sort of compound things that work and shed things that don't.
How has that mixture of communities been for you? Because I know that you know people in both spaces and the vocabulary and the conversation, essentially it's weird because they kind of don't respect each other. You know what I mean? The
Totally.
software guys, they're like, oh, we're growth hackers, we're this and that. The more internet marketing based people, direct response, they're like, we've been doing what you do for X, 5, 6 years. And we just and so there's all this like kind of tension. I don't know why we all can't just get along and build even bigger things. You know what I mean? Because I think there's a lot to learn. The way that SaaS companies study data, normally an internet marketer does not, but the way that an internet marketer approaches creating sales and direct response is something that the software people kind of are not really looking at that yet.
Totally. I think you nailed it. I mean, we actually try to somewhat straddle the two marketplaces, which is probably an awkward place to be. Um,
I'm there with
but
you,
one
brother.
thing that we sort of believe in is that there's actually a lot of people who sort of coincidentally end up buying the internet marketing space
Hmm.
that are really high value leads. But the difference is you have to understand how to communicate them a little differently, a little more for the long game. And what I mean by that is, traditionally, I would say if you asked sort of, a random sampling of the internet marketer space, they go more for the large volume of buyers, low price point, one-time fee. And if you go to the SaaS end, you usually get the other end of the spectrum, right? They want to get a large fee, a recurring amount, and they have like this freemium idea where if they give away a free plan, they can hopefully show and prove enough value to have them buy something better, right, and more expensive, like significantly more expensive. Whereas the IM world's like dollar trial with a 3-day rebill and
Yeah.
so some more edgier things. And so we try to sort of blend the two models. Actually, we originally started with a free plan on our SaaS that was significantly watered down, and we found with the IM leads coming in that was a terrible conversion rate to go from the sort of freemium model. And so now we have this sort of structured. You get a 7-day full featured, no credit card required trial, but then we do have some sort of things in there to where if you upgrade in a certain amount of time, you do get better pricing, right? And then we have other things where we're deploying things like a tripwire model, where we'll put something out there for extremely low cost just to turn a prospect into a buyer. All that sort of mentality is typically IM mentality, but we just ease off the gas a little bit, and we can
Yeah.
command a much higher price because of it, because we're not so, false scarcity, blah blah blah, that you would normally find in the IM marketplace.
Well, I think it's because people that have more the IM marketplace, let's just say mentality, come from there's no VC behind you. There's no, oh well, we've got revenue. Let's just hire some people and let's just do this and that. Like it's, hey, how do we make money for today? Yeah, so there's
Sure.
got to be kind of like a direct, this is how we're doing that. And like you said with the tripwire, which is kind of creating a low barrier entry offer to, in essence, rather than just have a subscriber create a buyer, build that buyer relationship. Now that we've already had that, I already took my wallet out for you, you're more likely to sell me something again rather than me going out and finding another solution. So I think
Absolutely.
they're strong. I try to implement that. I advise a few startups and things like that, and one of the first things I'm trying to do with these guys now is saying, hey, let's create a low barrier to entry so they can kind of get to know, even if it's just a walkthrough of the software that you have. Let's just create a small, even if it's a $3 webinar or if it's a $7 offer, just to kind of like educate them. And it actually kind of starts to serve as part of like a certain kind of onboarding strategy.
Totally. And what we actually found that's crazy and blew me away? We tried giving out all this course information and education materials and things that we really thought people, we thought if people watched this content, they would be so well educated at running a profitable, successful contest, right? That drew in the most qualified leads that generated them an instant ROI, like great. We were more than happy to give that away for free, which is the sort of Silicon Valley startup mentality. It's like, well, we only charge for tools, we don't charge for training, right? Whereas the
Mhm.
IM world, they charge for both, but there's a lot of money in the info space. What's weird is that when we charge just a little bit of money for that same content, our audience ignored it when it was free. And when it cost just a few bucks, not only did they change that relationship into a buyer, but now all of a sudden they have a little bit of skin in the game and they're plowing through the content and realizing just how good it is, which makes them amped up and excited to actually buy and engage with our product. When before we had actually tried giving the same people that same content for free, and they totally ignored it. So it's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
total mind
nowadays
shift.
free has no value. It's tough. I can find anything. I can find paid things for free. I mean, anything in the world is free. The information truly that you find at a paid section through a free section, you could probably, if you really did the research, just get all of it for free. But there's no real value in that. Oh, well, I'll read it later. It's there. If someone goes out and spends money and gives you that, then they gave you, a big part of them, which is the financial transaction there. So now I have the value, representation of, well, this is worth X amount that I paid. I need to dig into this. And, I think one of the things that the bigger SaaS companies do wrong is that they don't value the education. Your software is great, but if I don't know how to use it, if I don't really truly understand the best ways to, do the best I can with your software, then I'm just gonna you're gonna have me for a month, two, churn's gonna just start to, get aggressive there, and there's nothing keeping me. And so the education, I think, is a big valuable part that these guys just kind of overlook. Rather, in the other sector, they go, hey, this is actually really important, and you get a tool.
Well, what's funny too is if you look at a lot of the Silicon Valley sort of startup people, they're there because they have extreme domain expertise, right? They're very very knowledgeable at what they do. Like if they decided tomorrow to stop selling software and just go be a consultant, they could command top dollar, right? We're talking huge sums of money for businesses that have the most value in that whatever that niche is, right? Because they are probably one of the most educated people in the world at what they do, right?
Hmm.
Let's just assume that's a large majority of the people who are in that sort of early stage team. Now, if you're giving that away for free, as you said, people aren't going to value it. They could probably walk into a scenario where a business valued it and charge thousands of dollars, right? 5,000, 10,000, maybe
Oh, yeah.
depending on the niche, 20, 30, $40,000 for a weekend or a week of their expertise. And yet, when it's their own business, they want to give it all away for free. And how is the end prospect supposed to know they're getting $40,000 worth of fine-tuned experience and knowledge in an applicable fashion that they can apply to their business, like hand delivered on a silver platter? If that's free, they won't know that there's any value there. You have to tell them, just like in your copy, you have to tell people what you want them to do. The price point tells them how much they should respect it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about contest domination and some of the things that you guys have been employing to create growth, besides obviously generating contests for yourselves, I'm sure. What are some things that you guys have found now that you're kind of past that essential startup stage to consistently get more traction?
Yeah, so for us, the first thing we had to do was actually just fine tune that process of converting prospects into customers, which sounds really elementary, but that's something we've monkeyed with sort of forever.
Yeah.
It's probably never really done, but it's the difference between now and even say like September is a 6x increase in customer value. So, really trying different things that most people are kind of afraid to do.
Hmm.
So, like, we changed the names of our plans. We totally changed our pricing schemes. We changed the trial scenarios. We tested in all these different things of when prices increase and how much they increase and how we message people. And all that has changed drastically many times over to sort of come to this like resting place of where we feel comfortable with it.
Hmm.
Um, and we didn't think we were doing horrendous before. We sort of were in hindsight, right? But we were probably doing better than most people who just throw an app up and build something
Yeah.
as a starting line. And so to go from that and increase by 6x dramatically, of course, changed the game for us. But in terms of bringing in new customers, we see a few things as sort of being the most important. Uh, First of all, and this really applies to the internet marketing space, is we sort of obsess over customer service.
Hmm.
So we'll do basically not anything, but nearly anything to get someone happy, make them happy, get them engaged. Even if that's, we don't provide a hands-on service, but if we have to jump in and tweak things and change things for a customer, we will, because word of mouth is massive for us.
Yeah.
And to amplify that, we built in a feature where when a prospect is right at the point of deciding to buy, and we don't push this beforehand anymore, right when they go to buy, we have a nice little call to action that says, do you want to save $25 instantly off of your first bill? And typically the cheapest thing we sell is $100. So if they're buying a $100 item, it's a 25% discount. If it's a subscription, it's less, but it's still $25. And all they have to do is just type in 5 emails of their friends to invite them to try out our trial for our software, and they get an instant $25. And you'd be sort of shocked at how many people will do that, and what the value is. 'Cause you think, cost per acquisition, right? You typically would pay, $40, $80 for a conversion. You'd probably pay at least $20 plus for a trial. We're paying 5.
Yeah.
And we're building it right in at the point where they decide to make that transaction, so that we're not needlessly saying, hey, you've been in our software for 3 days. Don't you want to, share with 5 friends? Like, it's not a push, it's a pull. So like when they're ready, we pull them into the opportunity to refer us their friends. Another thing that, of course, in the staple is going to be affiliates. It's not a huge part of our business, but when you start, stacking them all together, it's meaningful. And then one thing that's actually surprised me at the long tail value is by doing that initial launch, we actually seeded a lot. A lot of affiliates pushed out a lot of content, and then we had a wide visibility. So then even people like about.com and Mixergy and interviews and podcasts and things like that are a great lead source for us, just because we have the visibility in the marketplace. And then our own content marketing, where we don't do as much of it as we'd like to, just from a bandwidth perspective.
Yeah.
But the ability to give little $1 Facebook ad hack kind of thing, like for $1 a day, how you can like double your visibility on your Facebook post, that kind of stuff. We find we get a lot of viral lift on the sharing of the content, which brings them back to our domain, brings them back into our whole content cycle, and then eventually pulls a good number of them into trials. So it's sort of a shotgun approach, but that
So
way.
out of all the stuff that you guys are trying and testing, what is working out the best? Is it, and do you guys do anything like, for example, connect with you know, other APIs and kind of integrate or anything like that?
So we do connect with APIs, and that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because most people in the early days, and we were sort of the same flawed mindset, was, hey, if we integrate with everybody, we can get into the marketplace, the add-on marketplace of everybody else, and that should drive us a ton of traffic. Now, do we get business from that? Absolutely. But the thing is sort of funny. We integrate with Aweber, Mailchimp, Infusionsoft, blah 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 blah, right? And Aweber even actually mailed out for us a how-to guide that we co-wrote, co-authored with them, and they promoted that to their list. But they're not marketers, right? They're email guys, they're software guys, but it sort of comes back to that they're not marketers. And so we've actually had what would be considered probably like B or C level affiliates
Hmm.
drive more traffic and certainly more sales for that amount of traffic than Aweber themselves drove. Now, of course, it's all cumulative, and we're happy to be there, and there's a lot of credibility that comes associated with that. But no single partnership is going to dramatically move the needle on your business, we found.
Yeah.
Maybe a few, authority guru type figures can make that kind of impact in the early days, but now that we're sort of past that, we haven't found that any one partner is going to dramatically move the needle, say 20% for us. Everyone will move it a little bit, but it's not nearly the level you would think.
No, yeah, it's the consistency of just maintaining those relationships and kind of create creating an integration here and getting a few more affiliates there, and jumbling that up at the end of the month, let's say, and that's what kind of starts to actually move the needle, which is you just creating growth by hustling, really.
Totally. And I would say, if someone is out there building software and they're thinking about, who do we partner with first, there's a big temptation to pick someone who you think is the biggest because you
That
think
does
they're
not
going to
mean
drive you the most
anything.
traffic.
Yeah.
And that's a huge mistake. What we ended up doing is we actually, we did the basics, MailChimp, Aweber, Infusionsoft, and then only Infusionsoft because we were using them ourselves at the time. We still are for a lot of stuff. But we just surveyed this big group of prospects, and we had our past WordPress customers. We said, hey guys, look, we want to prioritize based on your needs. We had them answer two questions. A, what email service do you use? And then the second question was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would you be to upgrade if we added your service tomorrow? And that helped us correlate and rank which ones, because we were already getting some audience because we had some buzz from the prior product. But when we went into the SaaS mode, it had very, very little to do with who could we potentially barter a promotion with, and
Hmm.
more to do with, hey, we have an audience, we have a bit of their attention right now. Let's just ask them. And so, the answer of who uses the most may not be necessarily correlated to who's most willing to upgrade the soonest. Because we actually found, like by adding Office Autopilot, we actually had a fair number of conversions, even though we had way more people on, say, Constant Contact or iContact that were actively using them, but they were not necessarily as likely to upgrade on our platform. So,
So, as you guys are growing, what bottlenecks are you having? What's keeping you up at night?
um, well, at first it just had to do with pure traffic loads, just sort of the nature of contests. They're very spiky kind of traffic. It's not
Yeah.
like
Well, it's
tomorrow
like
is
step
2%
mining, yeah.
higher than today and so on and so forth. It's like, the next hour is going to be 800% more activity than this hour.
Yeah.
And dealing with that was difficult, especially when we used to have an old embed widget that was really sort of an iframe. So our load was like we were not only had our own normal landing page load, but then we had multiple iframe or on each site of like thousands of customers, and that just added overhead like crazy overnight, and it wasn't performing very well. And we were just on like one big dedicated host, and so it wouldn't like crash, but we would hit our bottleneck. And what would happen is, it can only handle so many concurrent users, and when you get past that, it would just like it looked like it was hanging, but in reality, you had sort of like taking your number at the DMV, right, and had to wait for someone else to get off before you could see it,
Yeah.
and that's like a nightmare scenario from my perspective, and really literally kept me up at night as my uptime alerts were going insane on my phone, and I'm like, ah. So moving from sort of the standard scenario to like, a load balanced Linode cluster of multiple nodes to handle way more traffic, and it does a round robin. So as we get that avalanche of traffic from a big brand mailing, because now we have individual contests doing well north of 100,000 leads on a single contest, and so you think even with a 60% conversion ratio, that's still, one person is going to send you 250,000 visits
Yeah.
to one page, in a short period of time, not to mention the other thousands of customers on there. And it usually comes in a compressed amount of time. So just sort of dealing with what comes with that, because even after you get that, then it's like, okay, well now a bunch of people want to export their data at the same time, so you have to have like duplicate database services. It's like it's things that you wouldn't always think about. That you need duplicate services and load balance this and caching and just all that optimization was really sort of a hurdle for us in the early days, just because it came way sooner than we thought it would. We knew eventually we'd have to get there, but we had no idea that in such a short amount of time we would be totally cranking the limits of what our platform could do. So that was probably the biggest thing that kept us up at night.
It's a good problem. I mean, it's a problem for sure, but it's a good problem to have. It's better than I don't know how to get more people here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's very very true. But
So so a lot of the people that that we deal with and are not only just in the SaaS market and bootstrappers, but a lot of them do e-commerce and are trying to grow their list as well. So what are three major things that are missing from people not doing contests? I mean, I can immediately, I think, you're not growing your list, you're not capturing the potential of virality in contests, and it's a easy way to leverage kind of like a quick growth hack, if you will.
Sure. I mean, that's probably the most obvious aspect that people do get after they finally jump in. Um, just this week, we've had quite a few people email in and say, "Just want to let you know, I've captured more leads in the last 2 days than I've captured in the last 3 months." So you do get that sort of instant, hit, bump of like, "Wow, great, my list is growing."
Yeah.
But I think what's probably actually more important than that and is more nuanced, and it makes sense when people sort of think about it, but when their knee-jerk reaction doesn't bring them to this conclusion, and that's that contests, when you have the right prize, are actually a fantastic pre-qualifying event to give you a reason to make an offer. So not only is it a great way for you to engage your own list in there, get the virality on the back end of them referring their friends. Not only is it one of the highest conversions that you can possibly do when it comes to ads, plus you get the viral component again, lowering your cost per lead. But when that prize is right on the front end, when you do finally announce and give away what that prize is at the end, you have like 99.9% of this list that all entered recently, recency is king, and raised their hand and said, I want that. And if the thing you gave away is very, very correlated, or maybe exactly what you do and sell, you have a list of 99.9% of people who are basically telling you, I want to give you my money, right? Then it just becomes down to, do I trust you? Do I like the things you've sent me so far? I think you're kind of cool for giving this away to start with, right? And now it's just like, give me an incentive to buy, whether that's an incentive via bonus, whether it's an incentive via discount. It doesn't matter. You have their attention. They're qualified for what you want to do, and it's one of the lowest forms of getting them into your door. It's a great time to make an offer.
Yeah,
So
that's very, very true. And I know that you guys have a Contest 101 product that you've made, kind of taking everybody through the biggest and the hardest frequently asked questions that I know you constantly get asked. Why don't you
yeah,
tell us a little bit about that?
sure. So what we did is we sort of distilled the things that we felt most people were missing. It covers some of the basics about contests, but we also wanted to cover, how to pick that right prize, how to set yourself up to make a great offer so that you can get that ROI in your campaign. Just the things that we thought someone in a day should be able to get through on content. It's just like 5 modules. And we wanted to price it inexpensively, but we did want to price it so that people, as we talked about earlier, would actually engage with the content.
Yeah.
And so we just called it Contest Marketing 101, and that's actually at prospectdomination.com/CM101 for contest marketing. So
We will have that in the show
CM101.
notes as well.
Yeah, and so if someone's interested in learning about why contests really work, how to set up their offer, how to draft bigger audiences so they can really get the ideal audience they want for the lowest possible price, and then how to make them an offer in a non-salesy way, in a way that makes them actually excited to see a discount on something that you've already sort of given away. It's a great low-cost way to get into it.
That's awesome, Travis. Well, we appreciate it. What is are you on Twitter at all?
Of course, I'm at Travis Ketchum, which
We,
it's
we
kind of a
will
weird
we
spelling.
will have the handle on the blog, and if you are listening on iTunes, it's Travis. I would assume Ketchum.
UM. Yep.
Cool. And